I wanted to talk about modern woke games, movies, entertainment in general. You could even say marketing in general. This is a rumor that the new game Dragon Age the Veilguard is selling pretty badly. It's still pre-order sales for now, not released yet. But Dragon Age is one of the largest, most successful and famous video game series in modern times, I think. I very much enjoyed the first game. The second game was okay. I think the third was quite bad. I never bothered even looking into the Veilguard, if I'm being honest. I sort of expected what was to come. And I think we can draw generalized conclusions for the state of the economy and the political system, globally, in fact, from the way that large corporations and companies behave today internationally. So, what we see is that all of those pieces of entertainment and marketing include a very political media in them. People who are not conventionally attractive or do not adhere to traditional gender norms. People who are purposefully ugly or androgynous or behave or look as though they are the opposite sex or they exhibit behavior that is the complete opposite of what is typical of their gender, or perhaps they are unhealthily obese. These are hallmarks, not the meat and potatoes, not why these things fail, but these are the hallmarks of woke marketing and woke entertainment. And they're sort of warning signs. If you see this, then you know what's going to happen. You already know the product is going to be bad. It's going to lecture you, it's going to look down on you, it's going to have very low effort put into it, it's going to not function properly. And that's why nobody wants it. That's why it has no sales. I would like to give examples like Concord, Dustborn, video games like these. We have The Rings of Power, a massive flop as well. We have big names, Star Wars, the entire series of media, movies and games and such that have been made in modern times, essentially. And anything after the prequels just failed terribly. You might say that you had a few niche things that were successful. Gina Carano was quite beloved by the fans, I think, before she was fired for bad opinions. They had a little thing with Baby Yoda. But in general, for the most part, it was a failure. And not just Star Wars, not just the Lord of the Rings modern iterations. We have basically a universal fail rate that is exceedingly high for products that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to produce. And we have losses that are insane for companies like, I believe, Target, Bud Light, obviously, Gillette, Nike. Just there's no end to it. And so I want to question why. Why are all of these companies proceeding with the same apparent mistake over and over and over again? Why are they doing this? My answer is this: Lysenkoism. For those who don't know, Lysenkoism was the scientific revolution in the Soviet Union based on this guy called, let's see this, yeah, biologist Trofim Lysenko. Basically, he came up with completely absurd claims, like the idea that he can transform one species of grain to another, or all sorts of other modifications to agriculture without any basis, just because it fit the ideology of the Soviet Union. Essentially, they wanted science to follow their morals. They were collectivists, and so science had to be collectivist as well. And that didn't happen, obviously. Plants are not molded 100% by the environment like they claimed. You can't turn one plant into another just by raising it in the same environment that the other plant prefers. That's not how it works. And they had so fallen into this delusion that they started publishing things like here, let's read this quote. State media published enthusiastic articles such as Siberia is transformed into a land of orchards and gardens, and Soviet people change nature, while anyone opposing Lysenko was presented as a defender of mysticism, obscurantism, and backwardness. They basically jailed people, including Lysenko's own mentor, that did not go along with this pseudoscience nonsense. And so, what we are seeing today, I think, is Lysenkoism on a global scale, but instead of adhering to Soviet sensibilities, it adheres to the sensibilities of our globalist elite. This is BlackRock's CEO Larry Fink here talking about having to force behaviors. And essentially, you can watch this on your own if you feel like it. He was saying that they are forcing behaviors through monetary compensation or withholding it. And he's saying, quote, the behavior is going to have to change. This is something we're asking companies. You have to force behavior. At BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors. And this is, they're specifically talking about the whole gender-based, racial-based, gender identity-based hiring practices, essentially DEI. Essentially the idea that you have to promote the values of globalism, woke values, over meritocracy. And if you do not adhere to these new moral standards, then your ability to earn money will be impacted. This, on a global scale, is now what we're seeing, in my opinion. Lysenkoism. These people are hunting after the global audience, the modern audience, sorry, which is supposedly a group of very woke customers that are just itching to spend money on anything that adheres to their values. Every single time they transform something from what it used to be, and it doesn't matter what it was, so long as it wasn't woke, it wasn't modern globalist left, into modern globalist left, the customers disappear. They vanish. Nobody buys it. And yet, they keep doing it. The idea that there's a small minority of very vocal bigots that are opposing this transformation, and if you just ignore them and you just move on, then everything will be fine. Everything will work out. Is pseudo-scientific nonsense. It doesn't work. It has been shown to fail repeatedly, but it is still done because, just like with Lysenkoism, those who oppose the state-mandated science, state-mandated perceptions, are punished. In the time of Lysenko, they threw people in jail en masse for more than 30,000 mainstream biologists were dismissed or imprisoned, and numerous scientists were executed in the Soviet campaign to suppress scientific opponents. So this is exactly what is being done now, except in economic terms. You are not sent to jail for disagreeing with it, but you will lose your job for disagreeing with it if they can. They will try to have articles published against you in all the mainstream news, and they will try to get you fired. They will try to shut down your business in any way possible, sometimes through threats even to whatever venue you're holding your events on. You might have your own life invaded in terms of phone calls, emails. Your family might be impacted. We've seen such harassment of people who go against this new Lysenkoism, yes. And I think this is why it doesn't matter how much the market tilts against this sort of behavior. We're seeing now, forgive me if you're not an avid gamer, and I might use terms that might be a bit difficult for you to directly understand, but there are video games called gacha games. As the name implies, they are supposed to get you. They are supposed to get you to spend more money than you would have otherwise preferred. Let's say that you budgeted yourself this much for entertainment, you are supposed to spend more if they manage to get you. And they do this by ensnaring you into a system that sort of tries to blur the lines of spending. You make you convert your money into a certain in-game currency, and then the price for getting what you want with the in-game currency is also kind of blurred because there's a chance to get what you want. Now, there's a hard limit on when you will for sure get it, but the hard limit is quite high, and usually you get it before then. So essentially it's gambling, right? And what they do is they make the game not dependent on this gambling. Instead, the game itself is nice, it looks good, there's a story, there's gameplay, and you can play it without spending. But what they try to do is make you want to spend. They try to put something shiny that will make the game more fun for you behind the gambling. And people looked down on gacha games a lot. I did too. It was considered a niche genre that is just anti-consumer and bad. Nobody wanted it. It was very, very unsuccessful for the most part. Until AAA games, which are basically the mainstream games, the most well-known, well-funded, with the biggest names in the industry behind them, these sorts of games, they all started going woke. And the product quality failed, the product was not appealing, it was not functional, games started just being completely dysfunctional on launch. Some of them, basically, the day they came out, you couldn't play them because they were broken. Either they didn't start, or they just shut down in the middle, or all sorts of problems. You couldn't advance past a certain point because of a bug. And like I said, they were all ugly. The game was not fun, the game was short, the game was bland. Nobody wanted to play it. And suddenly, these gacha games that were mostly from East Asia became the norm, because they seized a hole in the market, and they basically upgraded their own gameplay and graphics. They invested more into this sort of game, and suddenly everybody's playing it because the game looks nice, it plays well, and sure, it's trying to get you to spend, but you don't have to spend. You have decent impulse control, you can play the game and enjoy it, spending very little or even none at all. And I've done it personally a bit. It's not bad, actually. Compared to what we have today, compared to what we used to have, it's bad. Yes, absolutely. If you gave me today Baldur's Gate 2 made with a modern engine, I would very much enjoy it much more than what we have now. But that game was a classic from quite a while ago. I'm talking like 2 decades more, maybe. But that's not what we have. What we have today are games that nobody wants to play. What we have is Concord, what we have is Dustborn, and many, many others that just keep on failing. Assassin's Creed was a exceedingly successful game series. Now they are making a new one. And again, how do you know it's going to fail? Well, Assassin's Creed was based a lot around historical accuracy. I believe that they were so focused on it that when the Notre Dame caught fire, they used the in-game model to recreate it because as a sort of the blueprint, because it was that detailed and that accurate. And they tried to make the game very much based on historical accuracy. They thought that in some point, it's basically a game where you assassinate historical figures, I believe. You play as an assassin. Again, it's in good fun, don't take it too seriously. At some point, they thought that a crossbow would have been a cool addition to one of their installments of the game. And they didn't put it in because it was historically inaccurate to have a crossbow at that point in time. Nowadays, they're making Assassin's Creed based in Japan, which the fans wanted for a long time now, because the fans like actual diversity, not the idea that the woke espouse, which is not at all just having different cultures displayed and celebrated, but rather what they have now is, let's have the game in Japan, and the main character is black. There was supposedly one black person in Japan in like the medieval period sometime called Yasuke, and he was essentially, I believe, sold by slave traders to them or something of the sort. Anyway, that guy was not a samurai. Historically speaking, there's no indication. In fact, every indication is that he wasn't a samurai. Well, they got one scholar to go and say, no, actually he was. Now we're making him a samurai and an assassin for Assassin's Creed. He's the main character. I believe they made him gay too. The secondary character is a woman, despite the fact that, you know, at that point in time, historically, there were basically no women warriors. Even today in the military, there are almost no women that are fighting. But forget about historical accuracy. This is not supposed to be a fantasy game with, you know, magic powers or superpowers or whatever. This is supposed to be accurate to reality. And yet, somehow, there's no Japanese main character in Japan in the Middle Ages. Japan is on an island. They had no ethnic diversity whatsoever at that point in time. In fact, even today, they are like 99, 97% Japanese. The quality of the product suffered so much that the buildings were, in fact, Chinese architecture instead of Japanese, which the Japanese did not enjoy, obviously. They felt as though you are looking down on them. The thing is, the people who make this are not concerned with historical accuracy or competence. What they are concerned with is making a game with a black main character that's gay and uses hip-hop music for Japan Middle Ages. It makes no sense. It's not that the fans are racist, it's that the people who make the game have an agenda to push. And that agenda precludes catering to the audience. In fact, not catering to the audience is a main part of it. So many developers have come out on Twitter and X now, and other social media, Facebook and the like, and said that they hate the fans, that the fans are racist, that the fans are sexist, and that not catering to them is the right thing to do. In fact, I've seen some activists refer to it as the fans are like a baby throwing a tantrum and forcing wokeness into the entertainment, whether it's a movie or a game or anything of the sort, is like feeding vegetables to an unwilling child. The levels of hypocrisy, the level of just delusion behind these people. Who made you my parent? For you to force the vegetables on me? What kind of nonsense is this? You're publishing entertainment and I'm your customer. You're supposed to cater to me, and if you don't, I won't give you money. And if you notice, Ubisoft's share price dropped in, I think, from like, if you go 5 years ago, it was over $100. Now that it's like $12 a share. It's amazing, truly. I'm going to point out that it's not just for entertainment, it's not just even for marketing. You see companies like Boeing suddenly have a lot of malfunctions and controversy. And, well, guess what? They now have DEI hiring, and they can show you their entire engineer core, I guess, like an entire engineering team that's made up of like mostly black women. I'm sorry, but if you look at the population of the United States, black women are a very small part of it, because blacks are a minority, I think 13-16%, something of the sort. So then you halve that into women, and then if you look at women who go into engineering, very few women do so. Even in countries that are the most feminist, with the most let's say promotion of women in male dominated professions, you'll still see a tiny minority of women turn to engineering or similar pursuits. So you go into that tiny teensy pool of women that are black and choose to go into engineering from the entire population, and you say, no, we'll only pick from this group. And even if you pick the best of them, you won't have enough for, you know, the entire team of engineers in every company, like making planes, let alone every other company that uses engineers, to be black women. You just won't have enough. You won't have enough competent people that are in this field, because you've chosen a tiny segment of the population. Black women who choose to be engineers. So what's going to happen if everybody is advancing BlackRock's standards? What happens if you all do what Larry Fink forces you through economic pressure to do? Well, standards will have to drop. And that's what's going to happen. That's what has happened. That's why you suddenly start seeing airplanes that the door falls off in the middle of the flight. That's why you're going to see standards across the entire industry drop. I've seen articles about how standards when it comes to military, like ships and submarines and such, dropping. We are on the verge of, in my opinion, a lot of problems in maintaining the things we already have, the society we've already created, due to modern day Lysenkoism. Can I call it Larry Finkism? Maybe it needs some work. BlackRockism? I'm not sure. Anyway, if you have any ideas, why don't you comment below and like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.